Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Carpo Hour. The Carpo After Dark. After Dark. Well, tonight I'm just sitting out here on my back porch. It's a little bit crisp, and it's not too cold, though, because I got my blood working. I was getting that, body in motion, get on moving. I was just about to pass out. I was just sitting on the couch, just kind of tired, and I got up. I went to the store, got all the groceries I needed, came back motivated, got a bunch of stuff done. So I thought I'd just sit down and kind of enjoy the moment. I figured I'm going to, since I don't really have a particular subject this evening, I'm going to tackle the only two questions that I've really received in the last few days, or that I've noticed. I try to answer my comments as best possible. For those who, I've mentioned this before in older videos, but I can't always get to all of them. There's a lot of random comments on newer and older videos, and I try to reply to as many, but I do read them all. So I read every comment, and I had this. A couple people asked me various questions. One question I got tonight was this: do I ever have any thoughts on offshore banking? My answer to that is absolutely not. I just, it's not even within my subject matter or interest at all. Yes, I'm interested in the fact that the banking cartels have basically, run the economy into the ground after we went off the gold standard. And I read an 800 book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's all about the Federal Reserve. So I'm well aware of what's going on behind the closed doors, but I just have no interest in it because there's nothing I can do about it. It's completely out of my control. And honestly, the money thing is all just a big image anyway. It's just an illusion. The things we buy. I always think of the rich man that has all these servants to do everything for him, and what would happen if the economy completely collapsed and he couldn't afford to pay them anymore? Well, his house would fall into ruin. Every man's house would fall into ruin, because the only way a man's wealth is worth anything is if people give it value. So, banking, that whole thing, the system will collapse. It will destroy itself. So that's about all I really know. I have to say on that. It's something out of my control. Another question I got the other day was from a subscriber who said that he had recently seen The Secret, and he was asking me, he said he'd read the I'm not sure, was it the Emerald Tablet of, no, it was the other one, the Kabbalion, and I recommended that book a while back. He said he read it, and he asked me, he was interested in mental alchemy, and he said, how do you apply it, basically? How do you use it, is what he said. That question opens up a lot of doors. That's not a question I can answer, though. Definitely not writing, definitely not on a video. I could write an entire book on that and still wouldn't even touch it, because that's a very personal thing. And there are a lot of people out there who will tell you how to apply these principles. You mentioned, the person who left the comment mentioned something about whether or not I've applied the formula, that they showed in, The Secret, that movie. I watched that movie when it came out, and it got me interested. It got me kind of excited. It was one of my first experiments in intention. But there was always something that bothered me, and it was the idea that they were promoting, and showing stories about people who wanted things, stuff, and houses and jobs and things that are irrelevant in the big picture. Because what we really want is happiness. That's it. If you want to get down to the bare bones. So we all want to be happy, but we're hopefully smart enough to know we can't be happy all the time. So applying mental alchemy begins by adjusting your way of thinking, by first starting to take notice of all the negative things in your life and asking yourself why they're negative, such as perhaps you don't approve of a certain type of social program, then why? Or if you don't like a certain kind of behavior that someone emits, why? And the more we start to analyze that, the more we start to see our faults reflected in other people. And then we start to understand projection. So I guess the first step, if I were to say the first step to mental alchemy in today's world would be really to learn a little bit about psychology, not getting too deep into it because, there's a lot of BS there, but understanding a little bit about personality types, getting to know people as best you can, because you can go into your own mental state of awareness and happiness and ignorant bliss and not have anything to do with other people. But the fact is, if we want to understand the world, we have to understand the whole organism of humanity. And yes, it's an organism. So we are all one organism, and if there's a failing cell, then we need to repair that or destroy it or do whatever we need to do to make sure that the whole is functioning. And I know that people may take a materialist approach and say that it is a dog-eat-dog world and, that we're only here once. And whether or not that's true doesn't matter, because a society that's unhappy causes people that are unhappy. So the first step to being happy is to understand the things that make you unhappy and ask yourself why. And then start to pick through those. Pick through those things that are negative to you and ask yourself which ones are things that you can do things about and which one you can't. It always reminds me of the old AA saying, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the wisdom, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that was always something that stuck with me, because it's a universal approach to everything. You have to understand that there are things you can't change. It's like trying to move mountains. You're spinning your wheels and getting absolutely nothing accomplished by griping about how the world could be or should be. Idealism to a degree is healthy. We all have to have ideals, but we can't use that as a basis for our lives, because we'll always be disappointed. So by letting down your guard, you're opening yourself up to whatever people want to throw at you, whether it be verbal assaults or disapproval. Families might not like it. Maybe you're a thinker and not a hard worker, or maybe you're a hard worker and a thinker like me, where when I am working, I work my ass off. But I always feel like I should be doing more, because I'm not bringing the money home sometimes, and that's when it becomes a big issue. It's like no matter how hard you're working in life, you can look at yourself and say, oh, I could be doing more. And so stepping towards that mental alchemy is to realize that you're doing what you're doing. And so you learn a little bit about people, understand how they work so you can understand yourself better. And then you stop griping about the past. That's like the first thing. You have to just completely let it go. Take all the things that have happened to you in your life, parents dying, loved ones leaving, houses burning down, all that, and ask yourself what you learned from it and move on from it. Then you start taking all those negative things that you can change and asking yourself how you can change them. And perhaps maybe you'll find some things along the way that you thought were negative but really aren't. It's just that you're afraid of them. Some sort of a xenophobia. Maybe you're afraid of these other cultures, and maybe you're afraid of yourself. And that's one that can never be overstated. It's very underrated, the idea that people aren't confident in themselves. And why should we be? We're humans. It's not like we're these perfect, awesome creatures, or are we? You know what I mean? We are here, and we're doing what nature put us here to do, whatever that may be. And by realizing that, you become part of it. You become one with the earth, with the people, and you start to understand what they were talking about in the ancient cultures when they say that everything is one and everything is vibration and frequency, and that it's all intention and awareness. In my life, in some of the tough times, especially when things get stressful, whether it be that you just lost your job, or you have extreme pain, or your kid's choking, which a lot of parents have had to deal with. I've had to deal with that a couple times. The panic can set in really quick, And like with the choking, let's say, it's over with, you get relieved and it's done and the stress goes away. Whew, wipe your brow and you're done. With the stresses we create, such as worrying about whether our stocks are up or down, or how much we could have made, or what we should have done, or what we're going to make next year, or whether we might lose our jobs or keep our houses, all these things worry us, and some of them are legitimate, but none of them should cause us long-term stress. And if it does, it's something we need to deal with. So that's all I got for right now. My steps towards mental alchemy, my best advice is to just change the way that you think and do it the way that suits you in your life. And really just take note of who you are. You can't follow somebody else's formula that says, that when you get to this state, you'll start to think this way, because you may be a very negative person to start, or maybe a very positive person. And growth is going to be independent of other people's growth. Whether or not we have souls and we live many lives on this earth, it doesn't matter, but we are all at various stages, and some of us are very young and immature in our ways. Some of us are older and wiser. So if the immature man can get a little wiser, then he's just as good as the wise man who gets a little wiser. It's just that it's all in perspective to the individual. So nobody should point the finger at somebody else and say, you haven't grown, or you're not the same, you haven't changed for the better, you're just the same old person you were. It's all about listening to your heart, not to what people tell you. Because if somebody tells you that you're this or you're that, or you're not this or you're not that, and you believe it, then you have to ask yourself why, because it might be true. And if it's not true, then you stand up for yourself, damn it. And tell those people in your life who are negators, who tell you that you shouldn't do things a certain way, or you shouldn't be a certain way, you just tell them to F right off. You say that from Carpo. Peace, everybody. I'm out.